Hey there, my name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path, and today I've got a brand new design for you called the Mirror Pendant. Basically, I originally was going to call this the Ginko Pendant because it uses some Ginko beads, but when you look at it, to me it really does look like the mirror that you would look at and it would say, you know, who's the fairest of them all. So there's a lot of stuff we're going to need today, but it's little amounts of each thing. The first thing you're going to need is you're going to need thread. I'm going to be using the DuraThread today, but you can use 1G if you have 1G as well. I'm going to be using white just because white is going to go with the beads that I'm doing. I'm going to use a size 12 beading needle. I'm going to use my thread burner and a really good pair of scissors. You are going to need some E6000 glue, some beading foundation. The original name for this I think was called Lacey's Stiff Stuff, or was the first brand to really come out with it. Beadsmith has out a brand and it's called Beading Foundation, so that's what I'm using, and I'm using the white. You're going to need a ruler. You are going to need 2 size 11 Delicas, just about a gram of each of those. You're going to need 1 color of a regular size 11 seed bead. Now that can be Miyuki or Toho, it does not matter. And again, I'm only going to use about a gram of that. You're going to need a size 15 seed bead. Again, that can be a Toho or a Miyuki brand. And I'm going to use probably about 2 to 3 grams of that bead. I'm going to be using 6 Ginko beads, and I think it's 13, 14, 15, 16, I don't know, let me check on that, of the 2-hole Paisley beads. I'm going to be using 2 Gemduo beads and an 18mm Cabochon. Now, I've not tried this with an 18mm Rivoli where you'd have to trim the back. I would say it would probably still work, but I'm actually just using a really pretty, it looks almost like a druzy cab on these. Here you can see this one, I have used an acrylic crystal AB Cabochon in this one, and this one actually is using the new Bodacious color beads. This is the Bodacious Mint and the Bodacious Purple here. And then my other sample color that I did of this one is of the mint and the lime green. So it's a really, really pretty and fun pendant to make. Now, I will tell you this, I ordered all the beads to make the color samples that you're gonna see today. When I ordered them and the beads came, every color that I ordered for these 2 pendants were out of stock. So I already have the beads pre-ordered, so as soon as they come back in stock, we will have kits for these 2 colors. Otherwise, I am going to have some other color kits available by the time this video comes out, so no worries there. The only other thing I can think of that you need is you're going to need a marker or some way to mark your thread, and you're going to need some Ultrasuede. I'm going to be using the white Ultrasuede. Ultrasuede is very soft, and it's going to go onto the back of our pendant to kind of hide all of our threads once we're finished. So this is bead embroidery. It's I'm not a master at bead embroidery. I never claimed to be. This is just a really simple way to get started with bead embroidery. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so you can see I have all my beads laid out. I actually have them laid out on my No More Oops bead tray. You can find these at lakesidejewelry.etsy.com. If you use the coupon code Kelly Trey in the comment section of Etsy, she normally gives out some sort of free gift, whether it be a pattern or whatever. So again, you can find this specific little thing at lakesidejewelry.etsy.com, and again, use the coupon code Kelly Trey in the comment box to receive some sort of free gift. Now, I've got them laid out here. I've got my 2 Delica colors here. I have my regular size 11 seed bead. my size 15 seed bead, my 2-hole Ginko bead, my 2-hole Paisley bead, my 2-hole Gemduo bead, and my Cabochon. So with these 2-hole beads, I wanted to show you how they work and where the hole directions are. So the Ginkgos run straight up and down like this. Okay, then your 2-hole Paisleys, the holes run sideways like this. And then your Gemduos run through just like this. Now, you'll see I've got some extras laid out here. That is for in case, I just threw some on here in case one of the holes was plugged up. So, to get started, I'm going to use my ruler. I have actually already cut mine out, but you'll want to use a nice sharp pair of scissors, and you'll want to cut out a piece of the foundation that is approximately 2.5 inches, and let me flip it over so you can see on the centimeters. There we go. And then this way it needs to be just a little over 3.5 inches. And if I flip it this way for you, it's 9 centimeters if you flip it that way. So that's the size you want to cut this. Now, to make this easy, you can find the center point really easily by folding the foundation and creasing it. You can see here I've got a crease here, and then if I fold it this way and line up my edges, you can see my crease there. So I can see my center is right here. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to fold this, and for about 2 inches, I'm going to put a mark just like that. Then I'm going to fold it this way, being very technical. And I'm just real lightly going over this, just enough where I can see my little center point here. Now this is where your E6000 glue is going to come in. You'll want to take your glue and put a little dab on the back here. Okay, and then I'm going to put it and center it onto my foundation. Now you'll want to sit and let this dry for just a little while. If you want to get started immediately, you can use some double-sided tape, because we're going to be holding this end with some Peyote Stitch. So I'm going to let this dry and I'll be right back. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on this center part here where we're going to do some Peyote Stitch. This is going to hold our stone in place and make it look really nice and finished. So I have my needle, size 12 beading needle, threaded with about 2 yards of DuraThread. And I'm going to take the very end of the thread and I'm going to put a knot into it. So I'm looping this thread quite a few times, or this little tail through this loop quite a few times. So when I pull it, it's going to give me a pretty substantial size knot. You can also take and make a knot over that knot if you feel the need to. Let me find it here. There we go. But it's completely up to you. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little thread zap here, and I'm going to get the tail short, and I'm going to kind of ball it up to where the knot is. And it doesn't matter where I start here on the outer edge, but I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come up through the back of the foundation, and I'm going to come up through it pretty close, right next to my cabochon. And if you pull it up and your knot pulls through, then you know that you're not big enough, but mine is stuck through and we're good to go. So I think actually for this one, I'm gonna use this cream color here as my base around it. So I'm gonna pick up 2 of these Delicas, my first color. Now I'm gonna let them drop all the way down. All right, and I'm gonna see if I can zoom in here. Bear with me just a minute. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna let them drop all the way down, and you can see this little bit of thread here. So I'm gonna scoop these beads all the way to where they were coming out, and then I'm gonna take my needle and I'm gonna go down through the foundation right after those 2 beads that I just threaded on. And I'm gonna pull this on through. Now, if you want, you can round the corners just a little bit here of your foundation so that your threads don't get caught. So now that I've pulled through, I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come back up through the foundation again right before the first bead that I threaded on. Okay, let's try and show you here some different angles. I'm going to pull the thread all the way through. And then I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to go through those 2 beads that I just added. And I'm going to pull this through. Now I'm going to do 2 more of my tan color here. And I'm going to let these beads drop down. Okay. As you can see, I've let them drop all the way down to the previous beads, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come right down through the foundation, right after that bead I just threaded on. And I'm going to pull the needle all the way through. Now this time, when I come up through the foundation, I want to count back 3 beads. So 1, 2, 3. So my needle actually needs to come up through the foundation between the first and second bead that I threaded on. And I'm going to pull the thread here all the way through. And then I'm going to go through 3 beads. So I'm going through the last 3 beads. So we're adding 2, but we're going through 3. Okay, same thing, 2 of my Delicas. I'm going to drop these down. Bump the beads all the way up against, and then take your needle and go down through the foundation right after that last bead that you just put on. Now this time, when I come up, again, I'm going to count back 3 beads. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come up through the foundation right before that 3rd bead there. I'm going to pull this on through. And I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to go through those last 3 beads that I threaded on. So I'm going to continue adding 2 and going through 3 till I get all the way back around. All right, so once you get all the way back around, you may have enough space to put 2 beads in. If not, you're gonna kind of have to scrunch, move everything around and scrunch it together, because you want to make sure that you have an even amount of beads here to do even count peyote stitch. So I have enough. What have I done with my beads? Let me find my beads here. I have enough space, just enough to be able to get these 2 beads in here. So I'm going to add my 2 beads like I normally would. I'm going to come down. There we go, and you see they fit perfectly. So I'm going to come up. Let me figure out where these beads were again. There they are. So I'm going to come back up like I normally would. So back 3, and then go through the 3 beads. And I'm just going to go ahead and just continue on through a few more just so it connects my circle of beads together. So now I've got that part done and I'm ready to start doing peyote stitch, regular peyote stitch. So we're going to pick up the same color Delica. I'm coming out of this Delica here. I'm going to skip a Delica and go through a Delica. So pick up one, skip one, go through one. I'm going to go through the bead, and when I pull it, I want to make sure that my new Delica goes to the top and the previous one kind of lays down on the bottom just like this. You want to keep your new one straight up. So then again, we are going to pick up one Delica. We are going to skip one Delica, which is going to be this one. So I'm coming out here, I'm going to skip this one, and then I'm going to go through the next one. So pick up one, skip one, go through one. Okay, you can see how that one is now. And I'm just going to continue around the circle doing regular even count peyote stitch and going around just like that until I have my beads all the way around. Okay, so once you've gone all the way around, this is what your piece will look like. Now, I am back to the start here. I've got one more Delica to add, but I wanted to show it to you in case you're not familiar with peyote stitch. So, I'm coming out of my bead here. I'm going to skip one and go through one. So, the one I'm going through is the last one on the row, which is this lower bead here, right here. It's not our upper one. That's the first bead we added in this round. It's the lower one. It's the last bead on the row. So I'm going to go through it so that now I have this nice finished peyote all the way around. Then I'm going to step up. To step up, that simply means I'm going to go through the first bead I added in the round, which is this bead here. Now, this bead is also the bead right above where my thread is exiting. My thread is exiting the single bead behind it, and I'm going up through the top bead next to it. So we pull that all the way through, making sure not to get your thread caught. And now your piece will look like this. The great thing about doing bead embroidery to encase a stone or cabochon rather than doing it freehand is that you really get to see the stone. You don't cover up a whole lot of it. So it's really nice to be able, especially when using a stone like this, where you'll actually be able to see it. Now I'm going to be using my 15s. And for this round, it's going to be really easy. All we're going to do is pick up a 15 and go through the next Delica, sticking up. And you can see how it popped right in place there. Again, a 15 and go through the next Delica, sticking up. And I'm going to do this around the top of my piece, just picking up a 15 and going through my Delica, sticking up. Now, depending on how loose or how tight you added these beads here in this first round will determine how many beads you actually have sticking up and you will add. Each person might be a little bit different, just depending on their tightness. So just be aware that what you see on mine may be a little bit different from yours, and that's okay. But I'm going to go around and add these 15s. I've gone all the way around now on the front side of my stone, adding my 15s. Once you've added your last 15 and you're coming out of a Delica, we want to stitch down to exit any one of these Delicas here that's still touching our foundation. So I'm just going to stitch down through just like that to get down here. Now this is where we're going to use our accent color Delica. So I'm going to pick up my second color of Delica. This is going to be a mint green. And just like regular peyote, I'm going to pick up one, skip one, and go through one. So I'm basically going straight across and going through the next open hole of my Delica. So what's going to happen when I pull that, you can see it pops it in place against the foundation. So again, pick up a new color Delica, go through the next Delica that's kind of lower there, and you are going to go around adding these beads until you're back to the start. Once you've completed the round, this is what your piece will look like. once you've gone through the last bead, you're going to take your needle and go down through the foundation right next to your last bead. And you're going to kind of just sit it here for a moment. Now this is where we're going to start adding and laying out our 2-hole beads. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it out here how they should look. The reason I had you mark off is because this will really help you when you are trying to lay everything together. So you can do this one at a time and actually stitch them on, or you can lay them out and make sure they're how you want them and then stitch them on. But I'm going to show you the basic how we're going to lay these out. Okay. Now the great thing here at the top and the bottom, we want to pretty much center these here on our line. So if we center it, this is kind of what we're going to have. So this leaves us enough room to kind of know that now our next set has to be between this and this line here. So that will kind of show you how much you're going to have to stitch either at a point or whatever. But too, this just kind of helps you see if you're going to like your color scheme that you've picked out. And I'm pretty happy with my color scheme here. And again, this is not how it's going to look 100% when we get it finished, but it's going to be close to it. So again, we just want to make sure we're happy with it. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this. You know, these will come in a little bit. And then our top and our bottom are going to have an additional point. So we want the bigger sides to touch each other here on our top and bottom. And then we got a Gemduo that's going to pop right here in the top and in the bottom. So I am very happy with the colors that I have chosen. And so I'm going to go ahead and get those ready to be stitched on. So pretty much everything from here I'm going to pull off. And put it back just because that's how I am. Okay. And with this kind of laid on here how I want it, here at the very top, making sure it's centered, I'm going to come up through the foundation somewhere here near the bottom hole of this 2-hole paisley. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go through the bottom hole of the paisley and then up through the first hole of my Gemduo, just like this. And I'm going to hold those beads there and pull my thread all the way through. Pick up 3 15s, and I'm going to go down through the other hole of the Ginko. I think I said Paisley a minute ago. I don't know what I said, but that's a Ginko bead. So I'm going to pull it to where it brings it together here, and then I'm going to lay my other paisley down, put the needle through the bottom hole of the paisley, that skinny end, pull it through, make sure it's where you want it. At this point, make sure it's centered. Make sure you like it, you're happy with it, because at this point I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to go right down through the foundation next to the hole that I just came out of on that paisley, and I'm going to pull those threads. So now this is essentially tacked in place. So I'm going to come up through the foundation next to the top hole of the same paisley that my thread's coming out of. And I'm going to go through the top hole of the paisley. Hold it in place, pull the thread, and then take the needle down through the foundation on the other side of the hole here. We need to tack the top holes of the paisleys. We're not going to worry about tacking the top holes here of the Ginko or these 15s, because we're going to grab those 15s as we come around to do another step. So I'm going to go ahead, come up through the foundation above this paisley, go through the hole of the paisley, and then down through it on this side. Now, if you don't get it super close to your Delicas, the second row of Delicas you added, it's okay, because we still have some work to do here around the edges. So these are tacked down now, and then I'm going to go ahead and lay my top on it here. Whoop, wrong way. And then once I'm happy with the placement on these, then again, I'm going to tack these in place as well. And remember, we're going to put a Gemduo in here, just like this. It's okay if your beads are kind of up a little bit. You'll see what I mean here in just a minute. So I'm going to start with this one since I've already got it laid down. Again, I just kind of want to try to make sure I keep it as centered to that line as I can. So I'm going to hold that bead in place. I'm going to come up through the foundation right there at the hole. Whoop, there we go. I'll lay it back down in place where I want it. Go through the hole of the paisley. And then down through the foundation right next to that hole. Okay. Make sure it's where you want it. The good thing is, as these just being tacked down, we can still kind of work with them a little bit. So make sure it's where I want it. Go through the top hole, foundation, through the top hole, and then down through the foundation right next to that paisley. Okay, so we got that paisley tacked down. Now we need to take and tack this paisley down. And like I said, the good thing with them just being tacked in place is you kind of move them around if you needed it to move a little bit, and you'll be fine. I actually want these laid out a little bit more flatter like this. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this one in place, and I'm going to tack this one as well. Okay, so I have the paisleys tacked in place, and now I have laid my Gemduo in place. And again, I'm going to tack the holes of that Gemduo, and then I'm going to continue to tack my beads in place just like this, the way that I showed you earlier when we laid it all out. Okay, so I have tacked my top and my bottom, and I've went to put this side in, and I've seen that I've gone over here on my line, and it's going to be hard for me to get this next little batch in. So if that happens, what you can do is, it's really easy to pull this out and just fix what you want to fix. Some of these, the Bondelli colors, go together really well as far as how they slide in together. You can see this one here. You can see a little bit of thread, and that's okay. So as long as you can get them in there and they look good. See, I see a little bit of thread here, but besides that, you can see kind of how they need to lay in there for what you want. Alright, so once you have your pieces tacked into place, you are now ready to start your next step. So to do the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up through the back of my foundation, and I want to come right up next to one of my accent colors of Delicas. And I'm going to go through that Delica. So this is where our regular size 11 seed beads are going to come into play. I'm going to pick up 111 and I'm going to go through the next 11 Delica. So it'll put that bead in place. And I'm going to go around this whole little section, adding my regular size 11 seed beads. Now, if as you add them, or once you've added them, it seems like some of your 11s want to stick up a little bit, you can tack those down before you do the next step. So go ahead and add these 11s, tack down any 11s you think you may need to, and exit out of one of these new 11 seed beads. Okay, so with my round of 11s in place, I'm now ready to start with my 15s. So again, I'm just going to pick up a 15 and I'm going to go through the next regular 11. And as with the 11s, if any of your 15s feel like they are sticking up rather than kind of laying down, you can tack them into place. Now, we don't want to pull this row really tight. We just want to pull it enough to kind of pop that little 15 in place. So I'm going to go around and just put my 15s in place and tack them anywhere I need to tack them. Once you've gone around with your 15s, you're now ready to fill in any little spaces here along the edge that you need to fill in. And we need to fill in here, and we need to fill in here, what space we've got. So I've gone down through my foundation and I'm going to come up through the foundation, and this is where if you need to move any of your little pieces, you can move them into place. But I'm going to come up through the foundation right next to my last row of 15s that I put on. And I'm going to thread on and kind of drop down these 15s to see how many it'll take to fill in this hole. And I think it's going to take 3. Yep. See my 3 right there? See how I filled in that little hole? So now I'm going to come up right above those. And I think it'll only take 1 bead here to fill it in. So I just pick up that 1 bead and I go down through it, and that will fill in that little hole there. So then I'll come up here to the next hole. Same thing, I'm going to pick up enough beads. Sometimes it'll be 3 and sometimes it might be 4. It looks like most of these are going to be 3. So I'll pick up my 3, go down through the foundation. Yep. And then come up and put my little 1 bead here and go down through it. Okay, so again, I want to go around and I'm going to fill in my holes here that I have, and then I'm going to fill in these holes here. One thing I'm not super happy with so far on this one is where I actually have this this one placed and this one. So this is where I'll really kind of work around and pull these around a little bit and try to fill in space to make it look the way that I want to look. So go ahead and do that. And if you need to add thread, because like I only have about that much left and I don't think that's going to be enough to do it. So if you need to add thread, I will show you how to do that here in just a second. Alright, so I've been filling in my holes and I've ran out of thread. So now I'm on the back of my foundation and I'm just going to take my needle and I'm going to run it under a couple of threads here under the foundation. Leave myself a little loop and pull the needle through the loop. So I'm just doing a little half hitch knot. Put a couple of those in here. And then I will use my thread burner and burn the very end of that one off. Now I will go ahead and I will add new thread just like I did to start with by threading my needle onto my new thread, putting a knot through the end and coming up through the foundation. Okay, so as you are filling in your holes and anywhere that you feel you need to put some beads, I want to show you how to actually do this part here. So I've threaded on 4 size 15 seed beads and you can see I'm coming up right here. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through the first size 15 in that set of 3 there. And so when I pull, you can see that they pop right into place. Now I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to go down through the foundation between that first and second bead of the set of 3. Then I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come up through the foundation between the second and the third bead. Then I will go through this third bead and then I can continue to add my beads as I need to. This just tacks the Ginko bead in place with your 15s that you've already got above it. So it works really, really well. So once that's tacked into place, now I can just continue to fill in the hole here. Okay, so I've gone around and I've filled in as many holes as I can. I still have right here and right here that I don't really love yet. But I think once I go around and add my edging, that once I tack these in place, it'll be fine and no problem. So I have brought my needle up against the bottom of the Gemduo. So it's kind of right next to the tip here of the Gemduo. I'm going to be using my 15s for this. And we're going to do it just like we added these around here. So we're going to pick up 2 15s. I'm going to scoot them down to where they came out, and then I'm going to go take the needle and go down right next to that second 15. And then I'm going to take my needle, come up through the foundation right before the first bead, and then I'm going to go through those 2 beads again. And this is where you kind of want to be really vigilant about your tension. So I put my fingernail, or you can even use like your beading awl and put up against the bead and then pull your thread straight out from the beads. So that way, if you do that, it'll help keep this nice and tight. And if you hear a squeaker, it's because my dog is up here playing with a dog toy. So, okay, so then I'll put on 2 more beads. Come down right past the second bead that I put on there, and then just like we normally would do, I'm going to come back 3 beads and go through those 3 beads. So you basically just kind of want to be careful right here. You're going to have a lot of corners to deal with in this piece as you go around and add your edging for this side. So for right here, I can't really put 2 beads. I only have a spot for 1 bead. So I'm going to take that 1 bead, add it, come down through, and the bead is in place. So now I'll just come up right next to that bead, and then I'm going to be ready to pick up 2 more, or you can even do 3 15s. It's kind of what you get comfortable with. I feel like if you've made it to this point of the pendant, you're very much comfortable with what you've been doing. So I've got 3 on here. Again, I'm going to just bring it back to where they meet. Take the needle down through there. and then this time, since I added 3, I'll come back 2, and then I'll go through, let me pull it here. I'll go through those last 2 that I put on. And like I said, this is where I'm going to take and I'm going to just kind of pull everything nice and tight so it gets into those crevices and you can really work and outline this. So I'm going to keep outlining it till I get to this little set of beads here. And I'm going to do it exactly like I showed you here, but I'm going to get to that point and I'll show you one more time just in case. Okay, so you see I've done my outline to this point, and I'm ready to connect it to my seed beads here above the ginkgo. So this was one of the ginkgos that I wanted to kind of push in just a little bit. So I'm going to kind of hold it in place as I do this step. Oh, let's see. Okay, so I'm holding it in place. I've got my thread coming up out of the foundation where I need it to be. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to try 3 beads first. Let's see. Yep. Okay, so I've picked up 3 15s, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through the first 15 right above that ginkgo bead. Okay, and if it's a little bit of a loose fit, you can always take and move these 3 beads over. But I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go right down the foundation between the first and second bead of that set of 3. Oh, now she's chewing on a bone. Okay, and then I'm going to come up through the foundation between the second and the third bead. And now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and go through the last bead there of that set of 3. That will tack that ginkgo into place so that these, because right now if you get it caught on something, these can stick up. And we don't want that. So that's why we have to kind of tack those in place as well. So you want to go around your whole piece, outlining it with your 15s, just like I've done here. And then we're going to tie this thread off, just like if we were going to add some new thread. Now, if once I get these tacked on here and I've gone all the way around, if I feel like there's anywhere that I need to add any more here in the center, I'll go ahead and do that as well. Alright, so I have filled in all of my little empty spots. I have gone all the way around my piece. Now you are ready to use your scissors and you want to trim around your piece, this outer edge. The big thing you want to be careful of is not to cut any of these threads as you go along the outside. So what I like to do is first I kind of like to cut out my general shape here. And then I will go in and trim it. Okay, so now it's like this, and now I'll take a good pair of sharp scissors and I'll go in here and I'll start cutting. But as I cut, you know, like I said, make sure you're not cutting any threads on the back as you go. So I'll kind of come in and I'll do, you know, some cuts kind of back here, and then I'll look, and if I can get closer, then I'll trim it closer. So you want to go around and trim all around it, and then we'll be ready to put the Ultrasuede on the back. So now I've gone all the way around and I have trimmed the foundation to, you know, match the front outer edge of my piece. If you can't get, you know, super close, that's okay. You just don't want major overlap of that foundation. Now that I've got this done, I'm ready to glue it onto the Ultrasuede. So the Ultrasuede is really soft and it's gonna hide all of this onto our piece. So I'm gonna use the E6000 glue again. And I like to use just these little small tubes. You know, of course the tube doesn't last as long, but it's nice not to have your tube dry up as you're trying to use it all. Now I'm not going really close here to the edges because you are actually going to be stitching around those edges, so you want to make sure it's easy to get in there. So I have my glue here on the back of my piece, and I'm going to flip it over and press it down onto the foundation. Now you really want to press it and work it. Really press it in on the back there. And then once this dries, we're ready to trim this to the same edging as our foundation. Alright, so I've now got the Ultrasuede trim to match the foundation, and I'm ready to start putting the extra edge on. So you can see, like from this example here, the extra edge is going to be this edge right in here. We need to kind of brick stitch almost this around so it will connect our foundation and our Ultrasuede here on the side. So you can see that one, and then let me grab the little rose gold color one here so you can see what I'm talking about there. So there we go. So, and it just adds another dimension when you look straight onto it. So to do that, I have put new thread onto the end, onto my needle, and I've put a knot into the very end. Now I'm going to separate the Ultrasuede and the foundation right here at the very top. And I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come through the foundation. And when I pull it through, I'm going to take the knot and push the knot down in between the foundation and the Ultrasuede. There we go. So my knot will be completely hidden now between my layers of piece. So I'm going to thread on 1/15. I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come through both layers. So I'm going to come through the foundation and the Ultrasuede. I'm going to pull this all the way through. And then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come back through that bead I just added. So that way it puts that bead in place. Now I'll pick up another 15. I'm going to come up through the foundation and the Ultrasuede right next to that bead. See if I can get a little closer here. I'm going to pull this through. And I'm going to come up through that bead that I just added. Pick up a bead. Go through the foundation and the Ultrasuede, making sure to stay near the edge. And then go up through the next bead here. Okay, and you can see how my beads are now adding another dimension to my piece. So I'm going to show you one more time. Pick up a 15. I'm going to go through both layers, so the Ultrasuede and the foundation. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come up through that bead again, and that puts that bead in place. So I'm going to go around the whole piece doing this edging, and then we'll only have one more step left to finish. Okay, so now that I've gone all the way around here on my piece, you can see that I've got my edging added, and I have added the last bead here on my piece. Okay, I need to actually connect it to the first bead here. So how we connect it is I'm coming out of this bead, I've got to come down through my first bead that I added, which is this bead here. Okay, this is my first one. Okay, then I've got to go up through the last bead that I put on. This will connect those two beads together and will now give you a completely seamless edge to your piece. At this point, you've got to decide how you're going to put your bell on. So let me actually show you my other two samples here. Let me grab those. So I wanted, you know, this piece to kind of be my showstopper and not really the bell to be the stopper. So I just made a little loop of seed beads here at the top of the piece. And I've done the same thing with this other one here. I've just used the same color that I would have used for my 15s, and I made a little loop at the top. It's completely up to you. You can kind of do whatever you want to, but this is just kind of how I personally like to do it. So I'm gonna find try to find 2 beads that are centered to the top. And sometimes you may have to go through. See, here's my bead right here. And let me actually look to see. On this specific one that I did, you can see that my bottom here is a little bit bigger and wider. So I actually think I want the top to be here. So I'm gonna tie off this thread and get rid of it. And I'm gonna start a new thread up here so I can show you how to do the loop here. So to tie it off, basically, I'm going to, let me pull this back out from where I was at here. Here we go. Okay, so from where I'm at, I'm just going to take the needle under the thread bridge between these 2 15s, pull the thread through, leave a little loop, stick your needle through the loop, and pull. And then I'll go down through a 15, and then up through the next 15, and same thing. I'll put the needle under the thread bridge there between those 2 beads, leave myself a little loop, push it through, and there we go. Okay, I'm going to go through one more 15, and then I'm going to take my needle and I'm actually going to go straight through the foundation and the Ultrasuede to come out on the back side of my piece. Now, I'll take my cutters or my trimmers, whatever, and I will trim the thread back here on the back. Now, I'm ready to make my bell up here, and the good thing is I have 2 beads here on the top that are centered to make my bell. So I will take my needle first, and I will come through the foundation, and I'm going to leave about 6 to 8 inches of tail thread, and I'm going to come up through the bead I want to exit to start my bell. Now let me grab my 15s. I think I packed them up last night. Okay, here we go. Okay, it doesn't take many. I guess it kind of depends on how you want to hang it. I'm only going to put about 8. So I've got my 8 15s. I'm coming out at, oh, let me pull this thread down here. I'm coming out of this 15, and I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come down through the very next 15 right next to it there. So that makes a loop. Now I'm going to come back up through the 15 I started with, and I'm going to reinforce this loop. I'll come down through that second 15, and now I'm going to finish off this thread just like I did the thread on this side, and then I'm going to put a needle onto this thread and weave it through and knot it and get rid of it, so that then I will have the finished pendant here. So I now have my finished piece. You can see it's very nice and finished on the back, and it's really pretty on the front. I did want to give you a little tip or trick, I should say. One of the things that kind of has bothered me about this piece is it's kind of hard to get your paisleys to sit perfectly the way that I originally showed you. So I took this home and I started playing, and what I did, I was much happier with this one, because what I actually did on this one was I went ahead and I did the complete encasement, including the row of 11s and the row of 15s, before I actually put the paisleys and the ginkgos on there. And now you can see that pretty much you've got even space all the way around. by doing it this way, by doing all of this first, it opens this up more for you to have a little bit more room to put these and it not be so bunched up. So if you're kind of like me and you're very particular, if you have a hard time trying to get them to look good this way, then I would suggest doing it in this way so that you can really be able to get those even. Now you can see how much it really changes your piece being on white backing versus the dark backing. They're both really pretty, but they, you know, kind of each have their own special thing about them as far as your colors. So that'll just kind of give you an idea about that. So I hope you enjoyed this brand new project from me, Kelly Dale of Off the Beaded Path. Now I did want to let you know we will have kits available for this project on my website, which is offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. We will have several color variations of the pendant. The kit will come with everything that you need to make it, less your needle and thread, because most of us already have that. Also, I do have a written pattern for sale on my website, again, offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. This will tell you step by step everything that I did on the pendant, and it will also list all of the colors that I did on my other color variations that we will have kits for. So again, you can find those at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Now, one other quick tip I wanted to share with you is it's August. Kids are going back to school, and it's the perfect time to find supplies that are geared towards kids but are great for beaders. So one such supply is a pencil pocket or pencil case. I actually bought these at my local Dollar Tree, but probably a lot of dollar stores carry them. They're just vinyl little plastic pockets. This one has 3 rings to it, but this allows me to basically be able to carry everything that I need for a project in one little zipped up baggie. And if I am the kind of person, I like to have everything together for a project. So if I'm getting my materials together for a project, I'll go ahead and put them all in a baggie and then put a little post-it note down in there that just says, you know, what I'm doing, and if I'm doing it out of a book or a magazine, what book or magazine, and even the page number, so I can just grab it and look and know exactly what that's for. So this is the perfect time. These are only $1 at your local dollar store, so head out and get you some of these. And they also have some really great other storage solutions right now for students and back to school that you may want to check out. So I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.